The train was packed. Bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, swaying with each jolt of the rails. The stale air buzzed with quiet tension. Another long day, another suffocating ride home. Marcus sat alone near the window. Late 50s, face weathered by time, suit slightly crumpled from too many hours at a desk, too many restless nights. His briefcase rested against one leg, his other leg, stiff, wrapped beneath a brace, hidden from view. He sat still, head bowed, eyes closed, as if borrowing a moment of peace from the noise around him. The train doors slid open with a hiss. A woman in her 30s stormed in, designer bag on one arm, phone in the other, sunglasses perched high though the sky had already darkened. She scanned the cabin, no empty seats. Her gaze landed on Marcus. "Excuse me," she barked. "That seat should be for someone who needs a dash." Marcus opened his eyes slowly, met her stare with calm. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I need a dash." The words were soft, strained. But entitlement heard no softness. The woman's voice rose. "You need it?" "I don't think so. There's a pregnant woman standing right there." She pointed sharply at another woman by the door, visibly uncomfortable, clutching the overhead rail, eyes wide with sudden attention. Gasps rippled through the cabin. Phones turned, fingers hovered over record buttons. Marcus tried again, steady. "I'm not refusing to help. I simply can't stand right now, dash." But the woman had tasted the crowd's attention, and now she fed it. He pushed me. I tried to pass, and he grabbed my arm. A murmur rose. Faces shifted toward Marcus, once invisible, now marked. An older man whispered, shaking his head. "Disgraceful, dash." A young woman angled her phone toward him, recording. "People like this think they can do whatever they want, dash." Marcus's breath caught in his chest. He hadn't moved, hadn't touched anyone. But his words meant nothing against the rising tide of accusation. The pregnant woman looked lost, unsure whether to intervene, but the crowd had already decided. Momentum swallowed doubt. Someone called the conductor. Another voice rang out. "Get him off this train." Marcus sat frozen, hands folded, spine upright. Eyes burning, not from guilt, but from something deeper. The helpless ache of a man trapped by silence, drowning beneath the noise. The tension in the train car was thick enough to choke on. The conductor pushed through the crowd, clipboard in one hand, confusion in his eyes. "What's going on here?" The woman pointed dramatically toward Marcus. "He assaulted me. I told him I needed that seat, and he hit me." Her voice rose with every syllable, designed not just to be heard, but to ignite. Marcus sat still. He didn't flinch, didn't raise his voice. His hands were folded in his lap. "That's not true," he said softly. "I didn't touch anyone, dash." The conductor looked from the woman to Marcus, then to the crowd. Phones hovered like vultures over a carcass. One man leaned in, whispering, "I saw him refuse. I didn't see a hit, but..." A seed of doubt, but no one watered it. The woman's phone was now pressed inches from Marcus's face, her camera capturing the moment she believed would define him. "This is the man," she shouted. "He pushed a pregnant woman and then attacked me. You see this? This is what we deal with every day, dash." More gasps. Someone behind them muttered, "Unbelievable, dash." Another, "Call the cops. He can explain it to them, dash." The pregnant woman shifted uneasily, clearly unsure what to say. Her hand touched her belly, her other hand gripping the rail like it was a lifeline. Marcus turned to her, voice barely above a whisper. "Miss, I didn't push you. I didn't touch anyone, Dash." She said nothing, couldn't. The train began to slow. The conductor stood upright, making his decision. "Sir, I need you to come with me, Dash." "On what grounds?" Marcus asked, still calm. "I've done nothing wrong, Dash." But it didn't matter. In a world of raised voices, his quietness sounded like guilt. The woman, her cheeks flushed red, her phone still pointed, moved aside with a satisfied scoff. "Unbelievable," she hissed. "People like him always play the victim when they're caught, Dash." Marcus rose slowly. His left leg trembled, not from fear, but from the brace beneath his trousers. Pain rippled up through his hip as he stood. He winced, but didn't complain. No one noticed. The crowd parted. And as he stepped off the train, cameras followed. Not a soul asked him his side of the story. Not a voice defended him. Not a question was raised. Only stares, only judgment, only silence. He looked back once at the seat he'd left behind. Not a throne, not a defiant stand. Just a place he needed to sit, for a leg that hadn't healed, from a war that still haunted his nights. But no one saw that. They saw a villain. And in that moment, the truth didn't matter. The train screeched to a stop at the next platform. Metal groaned, lights flickered. Outside, blue and red strobes painted the glass. Two uniformed officers stepped aboard. Their presence parted the crowd like a blade through silk. The conductor motioned toward Marcus. The woman stood front and center, mascara streaked, her phone held high. "That's him," she sobbed. "He hit me. I was so scared for my baby." Her voice broke perfectly on the last word, enough to summon fresh gasps from the watching crowd. The officers approached Marcus. One spoke firmly, yet measured. "Sir, please stand up, Dash." Marcus looked up slowly. His leg protested every inch as he rose. He said nothing. His briefcase remained by the seat, forgotten. An officer reached gently for his arm. Marcus didn't resist. "You're placing me under arrest?" he asked softly. The officer hesitated for half a beat, then nodded. "For questioning, sir. We'll sort this out at the station, Dash." A hush fell over the train car. Dozens of phones now pointed at Marcus, at his graying hair, his rumpled suit, his trembling leg. But the videos wouldn't capture the brace beneath his trousers. Wouldn't capture the years that led him here. The clips would tell a different story. Click. Handcuffs locked around his wrists. A single woman's voice called out from the back, uncertain, barely audible. "Are we sure about this?" No one answered. The other passengers stared, some smug, others curious, a few visibly uncomfortable. But no one stopped recording. As the officers led Marcus down the aisle, the woman turned toward her camera, crocodile tears streaming. "I just want to feel safe. That's all. Is that too much to ask? This is why we need stricter rules about who rides these trains, Dash." The hashtag appeared before the train even left the station. #outrage. By the time Marcus reached the platform, the first clip had already spread across 4 social platforms. Headlines followed. Man refuses seat to pregnant woman, then attacks her. Commuter horror, viral train assault. Justice for the victim. And Marcus? He said nothing. Not as the flashbulbs popped. Not as a reporter shouted questions through the crowd. Not as cold steel pressed into his wrists. His eyes remained forward, his voice remained still. But inside, beneath the weathered shell, something twisted. Not fear. Sadness. Because once again, the world had chosen its villain. Before it ever bothered to ask for truth, the city had already made up its mind. By the time Marcus appeared in court, the verdict had been decided in 1,000 headlines and 10 million comments. Monster on the train dash. Pregnant woman assaulted by older man dash. Hashtag justice for her trending worldwide dash. News vans circled the courthouse like vultures. Reporters shoved microphones past the barricades. Why won't he speak? No apology from the accused yet. A disgrace dash. Inside the courtroom, Marcus sat alone at the defense table. Wrist free, but soul shackled. His suit hung looser now, his face drawn, shadows beneath tired eyes. Not a single outlet had asked for his side. Not one reporter. Not one editor. To the world, he wasn't a man. He was a headline, a cautionary tale. A villain. At the prosecution table, the woman sat composed, draped in designer. A practiced quiver in her voice, perfected for the cameras. Behind her, rows of supporters, friends, activists, influencers. All with phones ready, hashtags primed. The judge entered, the courtroom rose. As Marcus stood, his bad leg buckled slightly. A reporter in the gallery snapped a photo. Man who attacked pregnant woman, faking frailty now? The caption would appear before the first gavel strike. And then, Rachel entered. Late 20s, crisp suit, sharp eyes. A defense attorney barely 2 years out of law school. She'd read the case file 3 times, watched the viral clips, felt the same outrage as everyone else, until she noticed something. No full footage. No witness statements from anyone close to Marcus. No camera angles from the train security system. Just shaky phone videos and a storm of public fury. And something in her gut whispered, something's not right. She approached Marcus gently. Mr. Pierce, I'm Rachel. I'll be representing you dash. Marcus looked up, voice thin. You don't have to dash. They've already decided dash. But Rachel shook her head. No court should run on headlines. And no one is guilty without a fair voice dash. She opened her folder, took a breath. We're going to fight this dash. Marcus blinked. For the first time in days, a flicker of hope, or maybe disbelief. The trial began. The prosecution painted Marcus as an unhinged, bitter man, a bully who had no regard for others, a man who used his size and entitlement to intimidate a vulnerable woman dash. The woman herself spoke with trembling voice. He grabbed my arm. I begged him. I was so scared for my baby dash. I thought he might strike me next dash. The jury watched. The crowd watched. The world watched. Rachel rose. She paced slowly, purposefully. Ladies and gentlemen, she began. You've heard the accusations dash. You've seen the clips, but you haven't seen the truth dash. Not yet dash. She held up a thin stack of papers. This case is missing key footage. The official security footage from the train car. It exists dash. And it will tell a story that none of us have seen dash. Murmurs swept the room. The judge leaned forward. Is this confirmed, counsel? Rachel nodded. It is, Your Honor, and I intend to present it dash. The prosecution objected. Cameras flashed. And in that moment, for the first time, the tide of certainty wavered. For the first time, a crack in the perfect public narrative. Marcus sat still. His hands trembled beneath the table, his breath caught in his throat. Not from fear, from hope. Maybe, just maybe, the truth would finally be seen. The courthouse emptied that night in a storm of headlines. Rachel stayed behind. She found Marcus sitting alone in a side room, shoulders hunched, eyes rimmed red from sleeplessness. The cheap fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across a man already frayed at the edges. She pulled up a chair. "Mr. Pierce," she began softly, "we need to talk dash." Marcus nodded slowly, as if moving cost him more than energy. For a moment, silence filled the room, heavy and raw. Then Rachel opened her file. "I can't fight what I don't understand, Dash. Why didn't you stand up that day?" Marcus stared at his hands, calloused, weathered, a lifetime of work etched into the skin. Finally, a breath. "I couldn't, Dash." He reached down, rolled up the cuff of his trousers. Rachel's breath caught. Beneath the fabric, a steel brace wrapped around his leg, metal hinges gleamed dully under the fluorescent hum. "I wore it under the suit," he said. "Didn't want people staring, Dash." Rachel blinked, swallowed hard. "You were sitting because you had to dash." Marcus nodded, voice thin. "I wasn't trying to be rude. I wasn't trying to anything, Dash. I can't stand long, not after the accident, Dash." Rachel's mind raced, pieces clicking together. No one knew this. No video had shown this. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" she asked gently. Marcus looked away. Would it have mattered? They already decided. They had their clips, their story, Dash. Anything I said would sound like an excuse, Dash. He drew a slow, shaky breath. "My wife. She passed 3 weeks before that day, Dash." Rachel's heart clenched. Marcus's voice cracked. "She always handled things, the phone calls, the bills, the noise, Dash. Without her, I didn't know how to fight back, Dash." He wiped his face roughly with one hand. "I just wanted to get home, Dash. I took the early train because it's quieter, Dash. But that morning, the car was full, Dash." Rachel leaned forward. "You did nothing wrong, Dash. And it's time we show that, Dash." Marcus's eyes, tired, wary, met hers. "Do you think it's possible?" he whispered. Rachel smiled softly. "Truth always leaves a trail. We just have to follow it, Dash." For the first time since his arrest, Marcus's shoulders eased. A sliver of light cut through the darkness he'd carried for weeks. Because someone finally had asked for his side of the story. Day 2 of the trial. The courtroom overflowed. News vans outside beamed the proceedings to every screen in the city. Social feeds lit up. The crowd craved a villain, and Marcus sat before them, still, silent, framed in their eyes. The prosecution wasted no time. The lead attorney, polished, practiced, stood tall before the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, we present irrefutable proof, Dash." Screens flickered to life. A barrage of shaky phone clips played out in sequence. Marcus sitting stone-faced. The woman's voice shrill with accusation. Her tears perfectly framed. "He hit me. I was scared for my baby." The courtroom leaned in. Gasps followed the crescendos of each clip. Jurors exchanged glances. A few frowned. Others looked down. The prosecution smiled. These were captured by good citizens who stood up to injustice, Dash. This is what the world saw, Dash. This is what happened, dash. Then the woman took the stand. Tears shimmered as she dabbed her eyes. Voice trembling, she recounted her version of that day. I asked, politely, dash. He looked at me, cold, refused, dash. When I pleaded, he shoved past me. I feared for my child's life, dash. A sob caught in her throat. The gallery exhaled audibly. Tension thickened like fog. Rachel watched in silence. She had no theatrics, no crowd, no clickbait. But she had something better, the truth. She rose slowly. Your Honor, she said, voice steady, before my cross-examination. We request the full security footage from the train's internal cameras, dash. Uncut, unedited, dash. A murmur rippled through the room. The prosecution objected on procedural grounds, they claimed. But the judge leaned forward, voice sharp. Counsel, are you withholding relevant footage? A beat, the prosecution hesitated. Rachel's gaze never wavered. Your Honor, the footage exists, dash. In this court, the jury deserves to see everything, dash. The judge's gavel struck once. Request granted. Full footage will be presented, dash. Court adjourned until the tape is prepared, dash. Rachel exhaled. Her heart pounded beneath her blazer. Across the room, the woman's polished mask faltered for the first time. And Marcus? He remained stoic, silent. But beneath his still exterior, something flickered. A fragile ember, hope, kindled at last. The world had judged him. But tomorrow, the truth would speak for itself. The courtroom felt colder that morning. Silent, breathless. Every seat was filled. Cameras buzzed softly at the back of the room. The world had shown up to watch a man's fate unfold, live. Marcus sat still, hands folded in his lap. Rachel adjusted her notes, heart racing beneath her calm exterior. The judge's voice cut through the tension. Proceed with the evidence, dash. Lights dimmed, the large screen flickered. Black, then color. Camera 3, car B, 8:04 a.m. A timestamp blinked in the corner. The footage rolled. Marcus sat by the window, shoulders sagged, tired eyes gazing out at the blur of the city. Passengers shuffled around him. Then, the woman entered the frame. Phone in hand, voice raised, eyes sharp. She stormed toward Marcus. You? That seat. I need it, dash. The courtroom leaned forward. The audio was clear. Please. Marcus's voice came, soft, measured. I physically can't, dash. The woman's face twisted in the footage, anger radiating. She reached for his arm, yanked it. Marcus didn't budge, didn't lift a finger, didn't raise his voice. Then, a sharp slap to his shoulder. Marcus winced, turned his face away, but never moved aggressively. In the frame, nearby passengers shifted uncomfortably, but no one intervened. The footage ran on. No further aggression, no violence from Marcus, only weary restraint. The clip ended. The screen faded to black. Silence. The courtroom didn't move, didn't breathe. Rachel rose, voice cutting through the stunned air. Ladies and gentlemen, she said quietly, you have now seen the whole truth, dash. She looked toward the jury, eyes meeting theirs one by one. Not viral clips, not selective outrage, not hearsay, dash. A pause, just a man, grieving, disabled, quietly trying to get home, dash. The words hung heavy. At the defense table, Marcus swallowed hard. For the first time in weeks, his chest rose, a breath unburdened. Across the aisle, the woman's face drained of color. Her lawyer whispered frantically. The judge cleared his throat. "This court will take a recess, dash." Gavel struck, but no one moved. The room remained frozen, eyes fixed on the man who had said nothing, and whose truth had, at last, been seen. The room was still vibrating with the echo of truth. The gavel had struck, but it wasn't needed. The footage had spoken, louder than any argument, louder than the noise that had drowned Marcus for weeks. The prosecution attorney sat frozen, face pale, eyes darting across notes that no longer mattered. Beside him, the woman's lawyer leaned in, whispering furiously, but her mask had already cracked. Hands trembled. The courtroom watched her now, not with sympathy, but with something colder. Judgment. The judge returned, robes swaying, face carved in stone. "Counsel," he said, voice low but thunderous. "I will not waste this court's time further, dash." A beat. "This case is dismissed, effective immediately, dash." He shifted his gaze to the woman. Her chin quivered beneath the gaze of justice. "And you," the judge's voice cut through the silence, "should be grateful this court pursues justice, not vengeance, dash." A murmur rippled through the gallery. Cameras clicked furiously. Phones buzzed. Marcus sat unmoving. Rachel's hand touched his gently, an anchor amid the storm. He blinked once, slowly, but said nothing. Outside the courthouse, a new storm awaited. News vans, reporters, the roar of public curiosity. Screens across the country now bore new headlines. The man who never spoke, and the video that spoke for him, dash. Clips of the courtroom played on repeat. The footage of the slap, the calm refusal, the line that had broken millions of hearts. "Please, I physically can't, dash." Public fury shifted like a tide. Where once his face had been splashed with words like monster, abuser, entitled, now they read, wrongly accused, dash. Silent dignity, dash. Strength in restraint, dash. Comment sections flooded. "We were wrong, dash. He deserves an apology, dash. The internet failed this man, dash." Rachel shielded Marcus as they left the building. Cameras swarmed. Reporters shouted questions. But Marcus paused, just once. He turned, looked at them, eyes calm, unshaken, and spoke the only words the world needed. "I forgave her the moment she lied, dash." Then he turned away. One step, then another. The man who never fought back had won without raising a single hand. The courthouse doors groaned open. Marcus stepped out first. Sunlight spilled across the marble steps, blinding after the cold shadows of the courtroom. The crowd was already there. Reporters surged forward, cameras up, microphones extended like weapons of curiosity. "Mr. Graves, over here. Do you have anything to say? How does it feel to be vindicated?" Voices collided in the air, frantic and sharp. For a moment, Marcus stood still, shoulders straight, face unreadable. Rachel appeared at his side, eyes searching his. A soft nod passed between them, an unspoken question answered. And then Marcus stepped toward the crowd. Slowly, deliberately, the sea of noise hushed, just enough. He scanned the faces before him, some hostile, some hopeful, many ashamed. And then he spoke. His voice was calm, measured, steady as stone. Sometimes, he began, each word like a stone dropped into still water. "Silence is the only dignity you have left, dash." No anger, no triumph, just truth. A hush fell. Cameras clicked. Reporters lowered their mics, caught by the weight of it. Rachel smiled beside him, proud, eyes shining. Marcus took one more breath of clean, free air, the first in weeks. He had no need for more words. Turning, he walked down the steps, past the flashing lights, past the headlines, past the labels. A man cleared of more than a false charge, cleared of the stain the world had tried to leave on him. And with each step, dignity reclaimed what outrage had tried to steal. The door slid open with a familiar chime. Another morning, another commuter train. But today, the air felt different. Marcus stepped aboard, the same worn briefcase in one hand, the familiar brace hidden beneath pressed trousers. The car was half full, eyes lifted as he entered, recognition flickered in several faces. A woman whispered softly to her neighbor. A young man glanced up from his phone, lips parting in surprise. And yet, no shouts, no accusations, no cameras, only quiet respect. A man in his 20s, tattoos peeking from a rolled sleeve, rose quickly from his seat. "Sir," he said, voice low but firm, "please take mine dash." Marcus paused. For a moment, the entire car seemed to hold its breath. He met the young man's gaze, steady, kind, no pity in it, just respect. Marcus smiled softly, a warmth behind tired eyes. "Thank you," he said simply, nodding once. And as he sat, the world seemed to right itself, if only a little. Around him, a few passengers offered faint smiles, small nods, silent acknowledgments of a story that had touched them deeper than headlines ever could. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, not to shut out the world, but to feel it anew. He was not the man they once scorned. He had never been. And now, for the first time in a long time, he moved through this world not with armor, but with grace. As the train rumbled forward, a small act of kindness carried more weight than 1,000 voices. And dignity, once nearly shattered, stood whole again. The train hummed beneath the city, steel and light blurring past the windows. Marcus sat quietly, the rhythm of the rails steady beneath him. Outside his window, reflections flickered, faces, buildings, a world that had once turned against him. Now, he watched without bitterness. Around him, passengers went about their morning, some aware of the man in the seat, most not. And that was fine. Fame had never been his pursuit, nor vindication, just the right to sit in peace. He glanced at the young man beside him, headphones in, eyes closed. At a mother soothing her child 2 rows ahead. At a life continuing. And beneath it all, beneath headlines, beneath courtroom debates, beneath viral outrage, a truth remained. One that Marcus now carried forward, quiet, unshakable. Don't judge what you see in a moment. You never know the weight someone carries beneath their silence. A small smile touched his lips. And as the train eased into the next station, Marcus rose slowly, leg brace shifting beneath tailored cloth. Not as a victim, not as a headline, but as a man whole, seen, and worthy without needing to prove it.